Dedication. This book is dedicated to you, the reader. To the one who opened these pages in search of something. A story, a voice, a mirror, or maybe just a quiet moment. As you walk alongside Ahmed, through hardship and hope, may you find more than words. Thank you for reading. Introduction. This is not a story about perfect men or easy victories. It is a story of one young man, Ahmed, who carried more questions than answers, more burdens than dreams. A boy from the village of Damaru, who walked across borders and deserts, cities and silence, chasing a future that always seemed a few steps ahead of him. He did not find gold, but he found truth. And the cost of it. Some of the names in this book are imaginary, but the feelings are not. The dust, the hunger, the hopes whispered under stars. They are all as real as the hands that hold this book now. This story was born from lived moments. From things seen and heard and felt. It is both fiction and memory, wound together in the rhythm of an African soul. You are welcome to walk with Ahmed. To struggle with him. To hope with him. And maybe, to find in his footsteps, a piece of your own story. Welcome to 2 Decades. Chapter 1. From Damaru Village. In the small village of Damaru, where the roads were mostly dust and the nights were full of stars, a boy named Ahmed was born into a world already shaped by poverty and struggle. His father passed away before he could even say the word father. His mother, Mariam, raised him alone, carrying the weight of 2 lives on her shoulders. She sold vegetables at the roadside, fixed torn clothes with tired hands, and whispered strength into Ahmed's ears when the world grew too loud. Their house had a rusted tin roof that groaned when it rained. Some nights, the rain leaked straight onto their mats, soaking their sleep and their hope. Ahmed, anyway, grew up a bit different. Even as a boy, he asked big questions. He watched the world with eyes that seemed too deep for his age. He never just accepted things. He wanted to know why. Why has always been his question. At the age of 13, Ahmed left Damaru to live with his uncle in the capital city. The departure wasn't a big ceremony. No feast. Just a few coins in his pocket and a small bag of folded clothes. Mariam hugged him tightly and whispered, "Be strong, no matter what." That early morning Ahmed departed in a commercial taxi that leaves Damaru for the capital once a week, on Thursdays. The journey should take 6 hours. The capital was louder, faster, and harder. His uncle lived in a cramped room under a leaky roof. It wasn't what he expected, but this was actually what he found. Ahmed heard of his uncle long ago, that he has been living in the city for years. Why was he still living in such a poor dwelling? Ahmed silently asked himself. The uncle was kind in words and in actions, but poverty was evident all over. He somehow helped Ahmed to start school and bought him few clothes. For the next 8 years, Ahmed washed dishes, fetched water, cooked meals, and swept floors to help uncle and his wife at home. School was his only escape, and even that wasn't easy. He often walked to class with empty pockets and a hungry stomach. But he never quit. He finished high school with quiet pride. No loud celebrations. Just a nod to himself in the mirror. By then, he had made up his mind. He couldn't stay. He had to leave the country. Not for adventure, not for fun, but to find work, real work. Something that could send money back to Mariam. Something that could finally break the cycle of poverty. So began Ahmed's long journey, 11 years of moving from one country to another. He worked low-wage jobs in dusty warehouses and noisy kitchens. He swept, cleaned, carried, lifted, and bowed his head more times than he could count. Some nights he slept on floors. Other nights, not at all. He kept a notebook in his bag, not of money earned, but of promises to himself. One day, I will make it. Then I will go home and do the things that I am supposed to do. With enough. With more than enough. But time was moving faster than he realized. Mariam passed away while he was still abroad. He wasn't there. He didn't even know for months. When he somehow got the news one evening in the Fanasa country, he sat quietly in his little room and wept. "Oh, I am too late," he mourned. "Oh, I am too late. Oh, I am too late." The following days were dark for Ahmed, very dark indeed. He could not figure out what to do next. He stayed indoors for days, ate up all his little savings without earning any more. The situation forced him to go out. He must eat to live. Life does not allow you certain things. That morning he made up his mind that he would not return to Damaru yet, that he would continue his quest and one day he would make it. Mother Mariam had gone, but his own life was still there. He would work hard to make it good, and he was sure that Mother Mariam would be glad if that happened. Chapter 2. 11 years later. After 11 years, Ahmed returned home, not with riches, but with tired eyes and a small suitcase full of memories. He really did not make it. He did everything he could. He prayed very hard. He sought spiritual guidance. He worked very hard and did all types of low jobs and hard jobs, but still didn't make it. He was older now and maybe wiser too. His plan was simple. Visit Damaru, see what remained of his past, and then decide what to do next. He didn't know it yet. The commercial taxi that brought him was packed wall to wall, knees pressed tight, sweat in the air, babies crying in their mother's arms. Ahmed sat by the window, staring through the dust-smudged glass, watching the road curl and vanish behind them. 3 days. That's how long it took to reach Damaru from Fanassa. 3 long days through endless stretches of road, flatlands, potholes, and silence. He hadn't been home in over a decade, and his heart was heavy with questions. He knew that Mother Mariam had passed away 5 years earlier. He had dreamed for years of coming home to place something in her hands. A gift, a story, a sign that her struggle had not been for nothing. But time had moved on without him. Damaru village no longer felt like home. Boys he once played with were now fathers. Girls he remembered as children now had children of their own. Some people welcomed him with soft smiles, others with silence. He stayed just 5 days. Long enough to grieve, short enough to avoid the pity in people's eyes. Then he left again. This time, not to chase wealth, but to find a place to start over, quietly, without expectations. He returned to Fanassa. Fanassa was chaos wrapped in sunlight. Street vendors yelled over each other. Young men ran errands on motorbikes. The city never slept, never apologized, never gave anything for free. But Ahmed knew this place. He had worked here, long ago, hauling sacks, washing dishes, sleeping under unfinished buildings. Now he returned with nothing but his name and his past. But Fanassa surprised him. One afternoon, Ahmed saw an elderly man struggling to fix a broken tricycle cart. Ahmed didn't hesitate. He rolled up his sleeves and helped. That small moment of kindness turned into a conversation. That conversation turned into a connection. Within months, Ahmed had a decent job at a growing logistics company, a small clean apartment, a few helpful friends in high places, and a spot in a college class studying international relations. It felt like life had finally remembered him. Money came in. New clothes replaced old ones. He laughed again, even if quietly. He sent support back home. He stopped running, at least for a while. But the feeling of something missing never left him. Late at night, when the city was quiet, he would sit alone and think, why did all this came late? Why didn't it come the time I really needed? The time I would enjoy it with Mother Mariam? He would remain with those thoughts until he slept. After few months, strange things started happening. His company was caught in a scandal. He lost his job overnight. A close friend tricked him in a business deal and vanished with the money. Debts began to grow like vines. His phone rang constantly, not with greetings, but with threats from creditors. They all wanted their money at the same time. At night Ahmed would pray for long hours asking God to help him pay the debts at least. But time went by and the situation didn't improve. Those who once celebrated him now looked through him like he was invisible. His world shrank. Meals became fewer. Nights became longer. He applied for jobs, pleaded for chances. Nothing came. The more he tried to fix things, the worse they got. Something felt broken, not just in his life, but in the air around him. And then, one afternoon, in the middle of a crowded market, Ahmed heard someone whisper a name, Ibrahim Suleiman. They spoke of him like myth. A man who lived in the distant village of Raya, far beyond the hills. A man who had answers. Who knew things no one else knew. who helped people become rich overnight, if they were willing to do certain things. Ahmed didn't know whether to believe it or not. But with nothing to lose, he decided to find out for himself. Chapter 3. The Mystic Ibrahim Sulaiman. It took Ahmed 2 days to reach Raya. He rode in the back of a dusty pickup truck with goats tied to the corners and silence sitting between strangers. The road twisted through valleys and over narrow bridges. By the time he arrived, the sun was low and the wind carried stories no one dared to speak aloud. Raya wasn't on any map. The houses were made of thick, old stone. The air smelled of herbs, firewood, and something unplaceable, something that hummed beneath the surface. People in the village looked at Ahmed as if they had already seen him before. He didn't ask questions except for someone to direct him to where Ibrahim Sulaiman could be found. An old man walked with him actively and showed him the place. People were waiting under a big tree. He too waited there. The waiting was getting long, but just before sunset, a man with eyes like old trees appeared and said to Ahmed, "Sage Ibrahim Sulaiman is waiting for you." "Yes, Sage." That's what everyone called him here. Ahmed and the man walked together past the last house, through a narrow path, into a clearing where the trees leaned inward like they were listening. There he was. Sage Ibrahim Sulaiman. Not as old as Ahmed expected, but not young either. His skin was dark and smooth, his hair locked like ancient ropes. He wore no ornaments, no rings, no signs of status, but the air around him felt different, like it bent to his presence. "Ahmed," he said before Ahmed could speak. "You've walked far, in distance, in years, and in spirit." Ahmed didn't know how Ibrahim Sulaiman knew his name, or his journey, or the weight behind his silence. "I've heard you help people," Ahmed said carefully. "They say you can make things change." "I don't help anyone," Ibrahim Sulaiman replied. "I only open doors. It is you who must choose whether to walk through." He led Ahmed into a small hut, dark and warm inside. No candles, no wires, just a soft glow that seemed to come from the walls themselves. Then Ibrahim Sulaiman began to speak. He told Ahmed things he shouldn't have known. About places Ahmed had passed through. About people he had trusted and lost. He spoke of Fanassa, of the betrayal, of the hunger. He even spoke of Mother Maryam, and the day she stood in the rain, looking out the window waiting for her son. Ahmed sat there, stunned, feeling like the pages of his life were being read aloud by a man who had never touched the book. "How do you know all this?" he asked. Ibrahim Sulaiman smiled faintly. "I don't belong where you belong," he said. "I've walked in spaces that don't have time. I've listened to whispers not carried by air. There are forces, young man, that shape the paths we walk. Some roads are cursed, others are earned." Then came the moment. Ibrahim Sulaiman leaned forward and offered Ahmed a choice, one that came with conditions. "There is a ritual," he said slowly, "old and powerful. It will give you what you seek. Wealth, recognition, power. But you must let go of something sacred. There is a heavy price to pay, and it is not money. You see, Ahmed," he continued, "you can get whatever you want, but none of it is free. And sometimes the price is not genuine." "The price for this ritual, is it genuine?" Ahmed asked. "To be honest, it is not," Ibrahim Sulaiman said. "I can't do that," Ahmed said. "Not even now." Ibrahim Sulaiman nodded. "You are rare, Ahmed. You have been broken by life, but you are still not willing to break others. That will either be your curse or your strength." Ahmed stood up. "With respect, I thank you for your time," he said. As he turned to leave, Ibrahim Sulaiman added, "The journey isn't over. Not for you. There is another road, longer, slower, but still possible and genuine. Keep walking." And just like that, Ahmed left the sage Ibrahim Sulaiman, but night had already come. He couldn't leave Raya immediately. He looked for the old man who guided him to Ibrahim Sulaiman and found him under the same tree where others were waiting. Ahmed told the man that he wanted to sleep till morning and leave. The active man led him to the mosque nearby. "This is where the visitors sleep, young man," the old man said. "Make yourself comfortable here," pointing to the mats on the floor of the mosque. he added, and then left Ahmed. It was July and rainy season in this region. The night sky was always dark and the weather was cold. Ahmed found a place at the corner of the mosque. He placed his bag and sat there. Within few minutes the wind began blowing. It was cold. The rain was about to come. All the visitors that were outside started rushing into the mosque to take shelter. Some thunder and lightning. Time went by and the rain was dropping heavily. Thunder and lightning continued and Ahmed slept in that corner. Next morning by 7 o'clock Ahmed was already in the same vehicle that brought him and heading back to the Great Fanassa. Actually for Ahmed, Fanassa was great. It was always his returning place. He will go and go but will still return to Fanassa. He knows Fanassa very. He studied there, he worked there, he succeeded there and failed there and always returned there. He knows all the corners of Fanassa. He knows people there. He has friends. He even speaks the Fanassa language. The Great Fanassa. Chapter 4. The quest continued. Ahmed had left Raya and returned to Fanassa with no gold, no spells, and no promises, only a quiet certainty. If there were answers out there, he would find them one day. After few months in Fanassa he left again. He took only what he had, a notebook with worn pages, a bag of clothes, and the stubborn fire inside him that refused to go out. Over the next 2 years, Ahmed walked through villages that most maps forgot. Ndara's was first, a flat, sunburnt land where the air was thick with dust and the people thin and tall. He stayed there 3 months, working as a helper at a metal shop. He melted and shaped, carrying heavy rods and heavier thoughts. He earned little, slept on a bench behind the shop, and left quietly one morning without saying goodbye. Then came Bylos, a green, muddy village surrounded by swamp and mystery. The people believed in signs. They wore beads for protection, burned leaves to tell stories of the future. Ahmed helped an old woman sell roots and tea by the roadside. She taught him how to listen not just with his ears, but with his body. He stayed longer than planned, but the village never felt like it belonged to him. So he moved again. Kadu was louder, a crossroad town full of traders and travelers, lies and bargains. Everyone there seemed to be selling something: goods, news, fake dreams. Ahmed washed cars for a while, then found work as a delivery assistant. The city drained him. Its noise didn't match the rhythm of his heart. Still, he pressed on. Then came Kori. Kori was different. It sat on a hill like it had been waiting for him. The people were quiet but kind. The houses were plain but strong. There was a rhythm to life here. Goats at sunrise, drums at dusk, small joys in between. Ahmed rented a room from a widow who treated him like a long-lost son. He helped her fix her roof, weed the garden, carry water. In return, she fed him warm meals and stories. Stories of men who walked far and came back full. For the first time in years, Ahmed felt something close to peace. But peace is not always comfort. Every morning he sat outside and looked at the sky. Something still pulled at him. Question he couldn't answer. Why me? Why all the failure when things are about to be right? Why am I still stuck in moving from place to place and can't succeed and return home? Many youths traveled and returned home with success and pride. Why not me? I had prayed harder and worked harder than most, been kinder than most, believed longer than most. Yet life kept testing me. One night, during the rainy season, the wind knocked the power out. The world went dark, except for the lightning carving veins into the clouds. Ahmed sat by the window, rain dripping through a crack in the roof, and wrote in his notebook. Maybe I'm not supposed to find a fortune. Maybe I'm supposed to become something else. Not wealthy, but wise. Not known, but knowing. But still, my heart doesn't stop hoping. He closed the book and sat in silence. He didn't know what tomorrow would bring. But something told him, this chapter of wandering was ending. And something new was about to begin. Chapter 5. Fanassa again. Ahmed had been running all his life, not from something, but towards something he couldn't name. Now, after all the villages, the jobs, the dust, the losses, he found himself standing again at the edge of Fanassa. It was strange to return. Stranger still to feel nothing. Fanasa, the land of high hopes and broken ceilings. The place where he once rose like smoke, and then fell just as quickly. But this time, he walked in with no dreams. He had no grand plan. He arrived in the back of a crowded taxi, knees pressed to his chest, sharing space with loud passengers and quiet thoughts. This was not a beginning. This was a re-entry. And yet, something felt new. He stayed in a tiny rented room behind a tailor's shop, where the sewing machines buzzed late into the night. The air was hot, the mattress thin, but he slept deeply for the first time in months. Because for once, he wasn't chasing anything. In the mornings, he walked to a small cafe and drank bitter tea. He watched people. The way they talked. The way they moved. He had begun to understand something over the years. Most people are carrying something they don't speak about. After a few weeks, something unexpected happened. An old contact, a man he had helped once during his first years in Fanasa, reached out. He now worked with an agency, and they needed someone who knew the streets, who could speak with calm and think on their feet. Ahmed hesitated. But then, he accepted. And just like that, quietly, without drama, his life began to change. In 3 months, he had his own room. In 6 months, a small office. In a year, a name. Not famous. Not loud. But respected. He wasn't chasing riches anymore. And maybe that's why they found him. By the 2nd year, he was consulting for companies, advising community groups, even sitting at tables he once mopped beneath. And still, every evening, he walked a distance. Not to go anywhere, just to feel the ground and contemplate on how things were. By year 3, Ahmed had gone to college. Paid from his own earnings. Late classes, early shifts, long nights. But he finished. Degree in hand, face still calm. People around him started calling him the man who came back. But Ahmed never called himself anything. Because a name doesn't heal a wound. And no amount of success could bring back Mother Mariam, the one person he wanted to tell and to show and to make enjoy his success. She was gone. And that part of his heart stayed missing. Even now, surrounded by money, respect, even comfort, he sometimes stared at the wall and thought, everything has come very late. Why didn't it come when I really needed it? But he didn't say it out loud. People may not understand and may judge him. He just worked. He just smiled. He just gave. And yet, as time moved forward again, so did the wait. The job ended. The savings dried up. The silence returned. So did the debts. The calls. The side glances from people who once shook his hand proudly. And Fanasa. It showed its other face again. But this time, Ahmed didn't panic. He didn't curse or cry. He simply packed his bag, paid what he could, and left. No plan. No announcement. Just the road. Back to walking. Back to asking. Back to searching. Not for money anymore, but for truth. Chapter 6. The Man Colomba, the Village Colomba. The road Ahmed took now had no name. It ran through land where stories died without being told. Dry valleys where no trees grew, only whispers. A place many people passed through and never returned. He walked alone. No destination. Just following an old feeling. That maybe, somewhere, somehow, a piece of truth still waited for him. His sandals wore thin. His hands grew harder. But his heart? It softened. In each village he entered, he didn't speak first. He watched. Helped where he could. Repaired fences. Carried water. Sat with old men who no longer believed in much. In one village, a small place tucked between 2 hills, he met a boy who followed him around for days without saying a word. One evening, Ahmed turned to him and asked, "Why are you following me?" The boy shrugged. "You look like you listen," he said. And that stayed with Ahmed. He actually listened. To wind. To silence. To things that weren't words. In one of the villages, a market woman, wide eyes, sharper tongue, told him about a man who lived in the hills. Not quite a healer. Not quite a prophet. Just a man who answered when others didn't. Ahmed raised an eyebrow. What does he do? He just listens, she said. To what? To whatever you say and even what you don't say. Ahmed didn't sleep that night. He was thinking of what he could get from this man and how to get there. At dawn, he packed his bag, bought dry bread, and headed up the hills towards Colomba. The sky was very bright that morning, but the environment was cold. The sun wasn't up yet. Short trees and grasses and shrubs were on both sides of the tiny road he followed. According to the woman who told him about the village, Colomba was eastwards, a walking distance. In fact, that was the only way to get there, walking. No vehicles, no motorcycles and no bicycles could go. The road was too rocky. It could take him 4 hours if he could walk fast enough, according to the woman. It took actually 5 hours when Ahmed looked at his watch. The air thinned at the entrance of the village, or rather the house. There was only one house here. Few animals were there: cattle, goats, sheep, chicken, 2 dogs, 1 donkey and 1 horse were visible at the time. The sun was overhead now and Ahmed was sweating. An old man, white beard, bare feet, sitting in front of the only hut made of wood and stone and very big and high. He looked up as Ahmed arrived, and without smiling or asking, said, "I've been expecting you." Ahmed didn't reply to that. He only greeted respectfully and sat down. He begged for water to drink. The man went quickly in the hut and brought a big cup full of water. The water was cold and tasted good. Ahmed drank all of it and returned the cup to the man who was now sitting by him quietly. They didn't speak for hours. The sky shifted colors. The wind came and went. Then the old man whispered, "Your story isn't cursed, young man." Ahmed looked at him, unsure what to say. The man continued, "You think the world is against you. But maybe, just maybe, it's shaping you. Slowly, painfully, on purpose." And just like that, tears came of Ahmed's eyes, not loud, not dramatic, but steady, quiet but long overdue. He could have wept long ago but never did. That night, under the stars, Ahmed asked only one question. "Why me?" And the old man answered, "Because some people are chosen to carry lessons, not for themselves, but for others. And when you finally speak, the world will listen, because it will hear its own pain in your voice." Ahmed stayed 3 days with the old man's permission. He helped a little with the work. The man lived alone. Ahmed had wanted to ask why the man was living here alone, but he hesitated and let go. There are many whys to be answered in life. He said quietly to himself. That morning Ahmed left Colomba. In fact, that was the name of the man and the village itself. Ahmed never heard of it anywhere else. He didn't become rich by meeting this man, Colomba. No secrets of treasure. No shortcut. Just peace, clarity, direction. When he left, Colomba handed him a folded paper. "Don't open this until the next full moon," he said. Ahmed nodded and said thank you and walked back. The world was the same. Dusty roads, hard life, sky overhead, breeze blowing and time going on and on. But Ahmed was different now. His encounter with the man Colomba has clarified something. Colomba might be right, some people are chosen to carry lessons, not for themselves, but for others. This was a somehow acceptable answer, whether it was right or not. Chapter 7. The Paper and the Promise. Ahmed kept the folded paper in his shirt pocket like a live thing. He didn't touch it, didn't peek, just waited, counting days in silence. When the full moon finally came, fat and golden like a slow drum in the sky, Ahmed sat alone outside a small inn on the edge of Kori. The world was still. He unfolded the paper with hands that remembered hunger and hope. Inside were 5 words. Just 5. Written in old, neat script. Return. And walk with truth. No map. No instructions. No magic key. Ahmed stared at the words for a long time. Return to where? He asked himself. To what? He had no house. No job. No family left. Just roaming from place to place for 2 decades now. 2 decades of what he might call waste of time, or mistake, or learning the lessons of life. The 2 decades didn't make him wealthy but have shown him a lot. Everything has to come to an end one day. Maybe that day is here now. Enough now, he was saying to himself. I can't find more than this. 2 decades are just enough. Colomba is right. I take it right. I haven't quit. I have reached the limits. No way is further. The only way now is turning back. Back to Damaru. Thanks to Fanasa. Thanks to everywhere. Thanks to everyone. Back to Damaru. Ahmed was speaking to himself now, trembling and shouting like a madman. He stood up immediately, packed his bag. Time is up now, he was saying. And walked. That day he left Kori. He passed again through Kadu, where the traffic still snarled and the sellers still shouted. Through Bylos, where the swamps still bubbled and the beads still swung. Through Ndaras, where the same dusty shops still played the same scratched radio songs. In every village, he asked nothing. In every village, he gave something. A story, a helping hand, a word of comfort. And finally, after days, regrets, and a journey that had curved like a river, he saw it. The village. Yes, it was Damaru village. The dry earth. The goats. The narrow footpaths. Damaru. His village. Home. But nothing was the same anymore. The house where Mariam once sat in the doorway peeling mangoes was a collapsed memory. The well where he fetched water was dry. And the people? Older. Wiser. Or gone. But some eyes still knew him. Even though he was now older and had physically changed with beard and mustache and a muscular body that has been shaped by hard work and struggle over the years. Ahmed? A woman gasped. He only nodded. Children gathered. A boy ran off. A man came and offered water. Another embraced him without words. That night, Ahmed sat under the same sky he knew as a boy. This time, there were no dreams of gold, no visions of cities or riches or even answers. Just this. He had returned, and will walk with truth as he learnt and accepted from the man Colomba. Not loud, not shiny, not in a robe of miracles. Just steady. That night, someone knocked on his door. A young man, maybe 19. He said, I heard you once left this place with nothing. I have nothing too. Can you tell me how to survive? Ahmed didn't say much. He just invited him in. And so began a new chapter, one not of chasing, but of teaching. Not of searching for the light, but becoming it. He wasn't rich, but he was full. And the people of Damaru began to whisper. Ahmed has returned with something different. They didn't know what to call it, but the old folks smiled. That is what the long road gives, they said. Not money, not magic, but meaning. Chapter 8. In Damaru village. Yes, Damaru village had changed. Yes. But it had not forgotten. It remembered the barefoot boy who once climbed its mango trees. It remembered the quiet mother Mariam who gave her food to others even when her own stomach ached. And now Ahmed was back. He moved quietly through the village. Not like someone who had returned in victory. No car. No announcement. No suit. But the people watched. And slowly, they came. The tailor brought him a shirt. The imam offered him dried dates. Old women called him my son without knowing why. And Ahmed? He listened. And one morning, he picked up a hoe. Went to the old community garden, now dry and overgrown. Without a word, he began to clear it. By midday, 3 boys joined him. By the next week, they were 20. By the end of the month, the land was green again. The garden fed the village that season. But more than food, it gave memory. A sense of we can again. One day, while sitting under the shade of the old baobab tree, an elder leaned toward Ahmed and asked, What did you learn, out there? With a friendly, gentle oldman smile. Ahmed paused. He looked at the soil beneath his feet, then at the sky. And then he said, slowly, that not every closed door is rejection. Some are redirections. The elder nodded deeply, as if he had been waiting to hear those words for years. That evening, the village gathered. A small ceremony. A pot of rice. Children running. A drum played softly in the background. And Ahmed was asked to speak. He stood before them, not as a preacher or a prophet, but as one of their own. He didn't tell them stories of wealth or VIPs. He told them of cold nights in strange cities, of hunger, of longing, of waking up under leaking roofs, and still choosing to rise. And he ended with this. You are not small because your village is small. You are not forgotten because you are far. Sometimes, the world tries to bend you, not to break you, but to shape you into something it hasn't seen before. And the people clapped, not because the speech was fancy, but because it was true. That night, the stars seemed closer. That night, even the dogs in Damaru barked softer. And somewhere deep in the wind, if one listened carefully, it sounded like a whisper from Mother Mariam's voice. My son has returned. Not rich, not poor, but full. Chapter 9. The Idea from Dugusu. One morning, as Ahmed stood at the edge of the old farmland, watching the sun stretch its light across Damaru, a thought came to him, quiet but strong. Something was missing. Not from the land. Not from the people. But from the future. That same day, he walked to the village square and gathered a few of the youth. The curious ones, the restless ones, the ones who whispered about leaving the village. They sat under the tree, and Ahmed asked one question. If I showed you how to build something with your own hands, would you stay? Some laughed nervously. Others looked away. But one girl, maybe 16, raised her hand. Show us, she said, and we will build it. So Ahmed asked them to give him a week and he will get back to them. He remembered he had once walked through a village far away. A village where he heard old inspiring stories and spoke to old men. The village was called Dugusu. It was a quiet, almost forgotten village. But its spirit was alive. In Dugusu, he met elders who kept records, not in books, but in memory. They told stories not for entertainment, but for education. They taught with firewood smoke and proverb. And there, in a small circle of thinkers, Ahmed once heard the question from a young man who visited Dugusu. I want to build a place where the sons and daughters of my village, and beyond, can come to learn not just school knowledge, but life knowledge. To hear stories. To ask questions. To learn trades. To find themselves before the world tells them who to be. This was the question of the young man. By then Ahmed didn't pay much attention to the question of this young man, to the elders. But today the question just hunted him. He wanted to do the same here in Damaru. Ahmed took 1 week as he requested. He used the week to think and plan and sketch. After the week, he called upon the few youths again and suggested, let us build a place where the sons and daughters of Damaru, and beyond, can come to learn not just school knowledge, but life knowledge. To hear stories. To ask questions. To learn trades. To find themselves before the world tells them who to be. After presenting his plan and sketch and a motivating list of benefits, the idea was accepted. So they began. They cleared land together. They made bricks from mud. The women brought water. The elders gave wisdom and prayers. And slowly, stone by stone, the Damaru house of learning rose. It wasn't fancy. No electricity. No titles. But it had walls of warmth and a roof made of purpose. And in the first week, children came. In the second, teens. By the end of the month, grown men and women sat on mats in the evenings, listening to Ahmed read, teach and tell. He told of kores that twist you, of bylos that bury you, of finasses that fool you, and how each one still leaves you with a piece of gold, if you dare to look close enough. And in one quiet evening class, when he was telling the tale of how he once met a man of great mystery and deep power, someone asked, what was his name? Ahmed smiled, paused, then said, quietly, Ibrahim Suleiman. The class was silent for a while. Then the same girl who spoke first, now always seated in front, said, you speak like him. Ahmed shook his head gently and smiled. Chapter 10. The Visitor with No Name. It was late in the dry season. Dust hung in the air like a ghost that refused to leave. The days were long, and the nights cracked with dry wind. The garden behind the learning house had yellowed, and even the children spoke in quieter tones. Ahmed sat under the neem tree that afternoon, scribbling something in a small notebook. Lines of thought, maybe plans, maybe just memories he couldn't throw away. That's when the stranger arrived. No footsteps were heard. No horse. No knock. He was just there, wearing a long grey robe, with eyes that looked like they had seen too many lifetimes. He carried nothing but a walking stick and a torn satchel slung over one shoulder. He nodded at Ahmed. "May I sit?" Ahmed nodded back. "Please." They sat in silence for some time. Birds passed overhead. A goat bleated in the distance. The wind danced through the learning house windows. Then the stranger spoke. "You have built something here." Ahmed nodded. The man smiled. "That is the best kind of building. The kind that grows beyond you." There was something about this stranger that felt familiar. But Ahmed couldn't place it. Until the man said, "The first time I heard your name, I was in Bylos." Ahmed looked up sharply. "You know Bylos?" "I know all the roads you've walked," the man said softly. "And the ones you haven't yet." He leaned forward. "Ahmed, people like you don't just live stories. You leave seeds." Then he reached into his satchel and pulled out something wrapped in cloth. He unwrapped it slowly, revealing a simple wooden carving, shaped like a flame, or a leaf, or maybe both. He handed it to Ahmed. "This is from Raya," he said. "From the ones who saw your fire and believed in you." Ahmed took it with both hands carefully. Something stirred in his chest. Not pride, not sadness. Something older. "Who are you?" he asked. The man stood, slowly. A listener. A watcher. A man who once met someone who taught him not to chase light, but to become it. And before Ahmed could ask more, the man was gone. Vanished. No footprints. Just a breeze. And a feeling in the air that Ibrahim Suleiman had passed through. That night, Ahmed lit a lamp and placed the carving at the heart of the learning house. He didn't say a word about it to the students. But every time someone entered, they paused and stared at it a moment longer than they expected. They didn't know why, but they felt it. That something ancient had found them. And that Ahmed was not just a man who returned, but a man who returned with something. Chapter 11. The Learning House. The learning house had no signboard, no paint, no flag. Yet, every week, more people came. Some from Damaru, some from far-off villages. Even some from cities Ahmed had once wandered through in search of his own path. They didn't come for certificates. They came for meaning. And Ahmed? He no longer saw himself as teacher. He was now the first student of a journey that had no map. One evening, while teaching under the old baobab tree, a boy named Abdul stayed behind after everyone had left. He looked barely 17. Eyes too tired for his age. Hands rough-skinned. But his voice? Gentle, like the wind before rain. "Ahmed," he said, "I have something to show you." He reached into his ragged satchel and pulled out papers, writings, drawings, ideas, a design for a small water pump, a sketch of a classroom made from recycled wood and bottles, even a plan for how to purify swamp water using stones and sand. Ahmed read through them in silence. When he finished, he looked up slowly. "Where did you learn this?" Abdul smiled shyly. "I listened. I watched. I tried. I failed. I tried again." Ahmed's eyes narrowed. Not in suspicion, but in realization. The next day, Ahmed called Abdul to the front of the class. He handed him a stick, the kind used to point on boards, and said, "Teach us." The students stared in surprise. Abdul stood still, frozen. But Ahmed only said one thing. "You are ready when you feel unready." And so Abdul began. Stammering, unsure, but slowly finding his rhythm. By the end of the lesson, people clapped. Not out of politeness, but because something real had touched them. That week, Ahmed began rotating the lessons. Some days, he taught. Some days, others did. And the learning house slowly became not a place where one man spoke and others listened, but where everyone brought their light. That month, Ahmed wrote a letter. He gave it to a passing traveler headed towards the capital. It was addressed to no one specific. Just to the one who still believes in what they cannot yet see. Inside the letter, it said, "We are building something in Damaru. Not big, not loud, but strong. If you have fire, bring it. If you have doubt, bring that too. We don't promise success. We promise purpose." 2 months later, a young woman arrived in Damaru looking for the learning house. She was from Daras. Her name was Aisatu. She wore glasses, spoke 4 languages, and had quit a well-paying city job because, in her words, "I was rich in salary, but poor in soul." She brought books, ideas, confidence, and humility. She and Abdul began working together, learning from Ahmed, from each other, and from the land. And for the first time, Ahmed looked at the house he'd helped build and realized. This was no longer his story alone. This was a movement. Chapter 12. The Fire That Stays. The rains had come. Not the heavy, angry kind that flood roads and rip through roofs. No, these rains were kind. Gentle. As if the sky itself had watched Damaru's journey and decided it was time for grace. The trees around the learning house grew greener than ever. The garden flourished. Laughter returned to the evenings, not just from children, but from elders, farmers, and weavers, all finding a second youth in learning. Ahmed sat by the window one morning, writing quietly. He was older now. His beard had thickened with streaks of grey, not from age, but from everything he had carried. Aisatu walked in and placed a folded cloth on the table and left. He opened it slowly. Inside was a small handcrafted plaque, made of wood, carved with care. It read, "From wandering, we learn. From staying, we build. The people of Damaru." Ahmed ran his fingers over the words, his heart quiet. He stood up and walked outside. The learning house stood tall behind him. Not perfect, not polished, but alive. He looked around, saw Abdul teaching under a mango tree, saw children building a small mud stove near the garden, saw Aisatu laughing with village elders as they planned the next harvest. And for the first time in years, Ahmed felt peace. He hadn't become a millionaire. He hadn't owned skyscrapers. He hadn't conquered the world. But he had returned. He had built. And he had lit a fire that would burn long after him. That night, the whole village gathered under the stars. There was no announcement. No special ceremony. But word had spread. Ahmed was leaving again. Not forever. Not for long. Just a month. Just a little while. To rest. To reflect. To find what the next chapter of life would ask of him. People brought gifts, not gold, but mangoes, drawings, old letters, beaded bracelets. Abdul stood and gave a short speech. He ended with, "Ahmed didn't give us money. He gave us mirrors. He helped us see ourselves." And Ahmed? He stood, looked at them all, and said softly, "If I gave anything, it was because I once lost everything. I walked through Ndaras and Bailos and Kori and many other places but didn't find riches, but I understood pain. And when I finally returned, I learned that the greatest journey is the one that brings you back to yourself." He paused, smiled. "You are my wealth. You are my story." The next morning, Ahmed left quietly. Just a small bag and a notebook. He walked through the same road he once returned on, but this time, not with questions. With peace. As he disappeared beyond the trees, a child ran to Aisatu and asked, "Will he come back?" Aisatu smiled, looking toward the horizon. He never really left. And somewhere, far away, a man in grey robes, with eyes that see beyond time, Ibrahim Suleiman, closed an old book and whispered, "Well done, Ahmed." This brings us to the end of the book. Thank you for reading.
Oh, children, home. home.